Hello and welcome to Wednesday Warfare, where I review NXT and AEW Dynamite back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Stay tuned to the end of this video for my predictions for NXT Takeover Portland happening this Sunday. And as always, like what you like, don't be a dick. NXT begins with a hoppin' mad Roderick Strong, who's all by himself here. He calls out Velveteen Dream and demands an apology for what he did last week, wearing those custom tights on his TV return with a picture of the Dream and then Roderick's wife and son on those tights, and on the back it says, "Call me at Marina." So Roderick wants an apology, but instead he gets Bronson Reed, who, if you remember last week when the Undisputed Era were terrorizing people backstage, one of the people they jumped was Bronson, and so he comes out and takes umbrage to that. So they have a match right then and there, Strong versus Reed. It's a good match. Bronson looks good here. I don't think he's had a really good chance to really showcase his talents, really since the Breakout tournament last year. He's been in some matches, but I think this is probably his highest profile match to date with someone the level of Roderick here. We get a Velveteen distraction, the lights change, but it's a false alarm. Roderick ultimately wins the match, hitting Bronson with a flying knee while Reed is in midair. After the match, the Velveteen Dream appears on the Velveteen screen. He's wearing the Strong family tights again, brings up Roderick's family in his promo and says, "Gosh, Roderick, if something happened to you, I'd be able to take care of your wife and kid," which of course sends Strong into a rage and he storms the back. And that's pretty much that. Quick little thing worth pointing out here. The last time we saw something like this was 2 years ago when Samoa Joe made a very similar comment to AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe was the heel. In fact, this has to be the first time I've ever seen something where a wrestler attacks another wrestler's family and they're the babyface in this. Like we saw with Samoa Joe, a classic example, and one that this is lifting directly from, is Rick Rude when he was going after Jake Roberts' wife back in the day. So obviously the Dream has to be the babyface in this situation, right? I mean, he got the babyface pop when he came back. The Undisputed Era are clearly defined heels. Cool heels, but they're heels nonetheless. So yeah, Dream is obviously the babyface here, but he gets like the, "Ooh, you're attacking a man's family," and the announcers condemn him too. So interesting shades of gray blurring the lines here. We get a three-part bit here with the Broserweights. I'm gonna lump them all together in this one little stand-up here, but the Broserweights, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, are trying to find a way to get to Portland for TakeOver. It's the three of them. It's Matt, it's Pete, and it's the Dusty Classic Trophy. So how are they gonna get there? They try driving, but Pete doesn't know the rules of driving in America. They get pulled over and the car's towed. Then we see a skit where they're in a big giant goose paddle boat in the water trying to figure out their next step. And the conclusion is they're on a tarmac and they go to a private jet and they turn out to be stowaways for Triple H's private jet. And of course, me narrating that to you is far less entertaining and funny than just watching it yourself. It is probably, to me, it's the highlight of NXT is the misadventures, the wacky times between Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle. Go check that out because it's pretty hysterical. Angel Garza being interviewed backstage. Wouldn't it be nice for a bit of continuity's sake, or at least a little nod to what's going on Raw, if Zelina Vega were there with Angel while this is going on in NXT, while they're working together on Raw during Andrade's suspension? Little thought in my head there. But anyway, he's cut a promo on Lio Rush, who he has to beat to get a shot at Jordan Devlin's Cruiserweight title. Lio interrupts the promo and says, "The man that you beat for the Cruiserweight Championship is not the same man you're facing tonight," so we'll see how that pans out. Candice LeRae takes on Dakota Kai, who's got kind of like a captain gimmick going on now. She calls herself Cap Coda, according to her gimmick, and she comes out like wearing like a baseball jersey. I don't know if that's going to stick, but I will say doing like the baseball themed captain for Coda is a better fit than, say, when Captain Mike Rotunda thought he was the captain of a ship in WCW. That was a real thing, by the way. Anyway, this is a good match. At one point, Candice's nose gets busted, and Mauro Ranallo says it's leaking like a government document. Dakota ultimately wins. Actually, Candice has got her in the Gargano escape for a long time, and Dakota just rolls her up and pins her clean, not even grabbing the tights or nothing. Now, granted, Dakota was cheating a little bit during the match itself, so the fact that she won super clean with a roll-up there was a bit of a throw-off for me. Then afterward, Dakota wants to put more of a hurting on Candice. Tegan Nox shows up. They has fight, and that's how the segment ends. I think the build between Dakota and Tegan for their street fight has been pretty good the last few weeks, so I'm excited for that matchup in Portland. And speaking of Candice, Johnny Gargano's in singles action for the first time in a long time here as he takes on Cameron Grimes, and it's a really good technical matchup here. no complaints about it. Gargano wins with the Gargano escape, and then afterward he shouts into the hard cam to Finn Balor, "I'm going to show you a takeover why everybody calls me what they call me." Adam Cole's backstage being interviewed. He's getting ready for his match with Kushida later in the night, and he says, "Tonight I'll teach Kushida a lesson, and then at Takeover Portland I'll make sure that Tommaso Ciampa does not walk away the NXT champion." We then go to a pre-tape promo with Robert Stone in a big boardroom where he says to Caden Carter, "You'll never get as lucky again in a million years to get the 3 count on Chelsea Green." So he announces next week there's a rematch between the two of them, and it's going to be the relaunch of the Howard Stone brand. Lio Rush versus Angel Garza up next. #1 contendership for the Cruiserweight Championship on the line. I love Angel in this matchup here. He has such great, unique offense here against Lio for the bulk of this matchup, but Rush is able to stay competitive. They trade a lot of big moves near the end. A top rope crusher, frog splash on the floor, another frog splash, the knees go up, a super kick. In the end, Angel goes to the wing clipper, but Leo's able to get out of it and roll Angel up for a surprise victory there. So he celebrates on the stage, and Jordan Devlin, the Cruiserweight Champion, shows up and basically tells Leo that next week you're going to figure out why you don't bet against the Ace. So next week that match is happening. Should be a good one. We get a really cool hype package for the Keith Lee Dominic Dijakovic match for TakeOver, and it's narrated by Mark Henry. He talks about the history of big men in wrestling and how Lee and Dijakovic are basically redefining what it means to be a big man in wrestling and how agile they are and everything. And the blend of the size and the strength and the agility. And so yeah, I think it was a really unique spin on it. It was cool to have Mark Henry, who's a classic super heavyweight in his own right, narrating it and kind of setting the tone for it. And yeah, I mean, that made me even more excited for the match. Bianca Belair destroys Santana Garrett in about 3 moves in a pretty quick match. Kind of a disservice to Santana there. I was thinking there have to be some other women on the NXT roster who are lower on the totem pole who could have eaten that squash. Anyway, afterward, Bianca calls out Rhea Ripley and says, "You're looking past me, you're overlooking me at Portland." Out comes Rhea in the flesh with a brand new entrance video, by the way. And she tells Bianca, "I'm looking right at you, and then at TakeOver, I'm going to go through you." They has fight, and Bianca actually takes Rhea down with the KOD. Rare showing of weakness here by the champion. I feel ever since Survivor Series, and especially since she won the belt at the end of the year, she's been untouchable. I haven't seen her look weak or even downed that much since she won the belt. So kind of a shocker there. It's nice to see Bianca finally get some kind of leg up in the build of this. And also this segment was nice because it's it does do a good job reaffirming their rivalry and their match at TakeOver. Charlotte has nothing to do with this segment here, so it's nice to kind of separate it. They're pumping the brakes on the Charlotte thing for a little bit, only for now, as they go full force, Jeff Farmer style, into the Bianca Rhea match in Portland. Very passionate promo from Tommaso Ciampa here. He's in the big lecture hall, the film study room basically, watching footage of him relinquishing the NXT Championship last year in the same room. Very full circle, very poetic here. And so basically Ciampa says a man's at his most dangerous when he has nothing left to lose, and he will prove that to Adam Cole at TakeOver Portland. Very good, very passionate promo by Ciampa here. Then in the main event, Adam Cole takes on Kushida in non-title action. Another very nice technical matchup here. The story of Kushida trying to lock in those submissions was cool as well. At one point, he catches Cole mid-Panama Sunrise attempt on the outside into an armbar, and I love the commentary there. It's there's that MMA style again of Kushida. Yeah, because MMA fighters are always just catching dudes mid-Canadian Destroyer in armbars all the time. Anyway, Kushida looks pretty good in defeat here. Cole wins with the last shot. Then afterward, Tommaso Ciampa shows up, and he makes a long walk to the ring. He has a stare down with Cole, and Cole says, "I'm not afraid of you." And then just before we fade to black, Ciampa says, "At TakeOver, I get my life back." And Cole says, "Over my dead body." Ooh, what just brilliant, overwrought, over-dramatic acting that is. That is a Triple H exchange right there, because it's very reminiscent to me of his feud with Batista years ago. They had a Hell in a Cell match, and it was a very similar exchange where it's "I'm going to take you to hell. I'm going to take you to hell with me." It just totally rang very similar to the Triple H kind of thing there. You could tell his fingerprints are all over that script there, but it was a very strong ending to the show, and again, just that final image of Cole and Ciampa was pretty strong. Dynamite opens this week with a tag title match as SCU, the inaugural champions, hope to reclaim the gold against the team that beat them for it on the Jericho Cruise, Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. And oh my God, the lower third for Page and Omega in this match was something else, because that top bar has been kind of mouthy, been kind of like snarky toward Adam Page the last several weeks. And this one said, days held, the championships, 22. Days sober, Kenny Omega, 13,000, whatever, basically the whole length of his life. Adam Page, 0. Man, that's cold. And then as the match begins, the Dark Order appear on the screen, and they say, oh, the Exalted One's coming. And then Christopher Daniels at ringside, I'm going to go find them. I'm going to go check on them and look for them. Even the announcers know that's a very obvious tell what's going on there. That was kind of weird. Anyway, it was a really good match, really great opener. At one point, Page is taken out of the match. He's thrown in the barricade. He's gone for a long time. But a big old hot tag by him later on. And this match has no miscommunication, no tension or anything like that, like we've seen the last couple of weeks. And the Page and Omega work well together. They do the V-trigger buckshot combo to Kaz. Interesting that he's pinning Kaz in the ring, and you see Kaz like he's like reaching for the ropes, just the 3 counts happening, kind of like a 3.5 kick out sort of thing, a way to protect him, or maybe he was just thinking, well, I'm close enough to the ropes, I should go for them, because that's what I would do. I was curious about that. But yeah, the Elite defend the championships, they retain, and yeah, hell of an opener. And then afterward, all the tag teams show up in AEW, well, except for a couple of them. Private Party and Strong Hearts nowhere to be found. Anyway, like the Dark Order show up, then the Best Friends come out, and then Butcher, Blade, and Bunny, then the Hybrid 2 show up, and they're all surrounding the baby faces, and out come the Young Bucks to save the day, and they all has fight. It's basically a big preview to the Tag Team Battle Royal next week in Atlanta to see who will face the champs at Revolution, and so then the Young Bucks stand tall, they dive onto everybody. It was just a great tag team-tastic opening segment. You had the championship match, which was great, and then the whole big fracas at the end with all the different tag teams to end things up. And so yeah, pretty strong stuff. Earlier in the day, Jim Ross interviewed Santana going into his eye for an eye match with Jon Moxley, and this was a really good interview, a really good promo by Santana. I didn't know what to expect. I can't say I've heard a whole lot of LAX promos. Then Santana had a bit of a promo last week, but this was just really strong work by him. It kind of entered babyface territory in the first half of it though, because he talks about how, 10 years ago I was the lowest point in my life, and my dad helped me out, and my dad he lost his sight at a very young age, so I know what it's like to be in the dark and everything. So that was kind of cool to bring up his relationship with his dad, and then he turns it and goes heel on Moxley in the second half of the interview, where he talks about how Moxley did this to himself. He's built his own coffin. I'm going to show him what it's like to be in the dark. And that was, really, really good promo here. But it was kind of like a face and heel all in one, but the fact they tied it back together to the heelish side by the end, I think was very strong. But yeah, man, Santana, give him the mic more. We get another Darby Allin promo here. He takes a shot at Sammy Guevara's picture-in-picture commercial break promos with the cue cards and everything. Uses cardboard scraps to say in so many words he wants Sammy at Revolution over what he did to Darby's throat with the skateboard. And then right afterward, JR on commentary, there's no timetable as to when Darby Allin's going to come back. So is that match happening or not? Anyway, speaking of Sammy, he takes on Dustin Rhodes in singles competition, and Dustin looks great in this. I mean, he is in such good shape now. It looks like he could take on and hang with anyone at any age in that company right now. He brushes off a Jake Hager distraction on the outside. He hits basically the Panama Sunrise on Guevara, then the Final Reckoning to win the matchup. And then afterward, he gets on the mic and calls out Jake Hager, who he calls Jericho's bitch and says, you haven't wrestled once here, you're a failure in MMA, you're a failure here. And then Jericho goes, he's not a failure in MMA, folks. And then he challenges Hager to a match at Revolution. Hager walks away. Strong promo here, and we do find out later in the night that they will be facing off at the pay-per-view. So yeah, what can I say? A strong match overall, and Dustin, fiery promo there at the end. Poor Tony Schiavone on stage with Dr. Britt Baker, who drops some dental knowledge on us and explains in very technical terms as to why she had to remove Yuka Sakazaki's tooth in their match last week, saying it was in severe decay. I was doing her a favor, and I did it for free. And then she talks about the women's championship match later in the night and says no matter who wins, they're still second to me. She says the fans have chubby Whataburger faces, which, oh no, you don't dare talk mess about Whataburger in Texas. No siree. But anything she says the rest of this promo is irrelevant irrelevant because the fans have already just been broken by the Whataburger comment and are just hurling boos at her. But yeah, I think this is another really, really good promo by Britt here. And I keep saying this every week. She's gotten better at it, and I'm really liking this new heel Britt Baker. Women's Championship on the line. It's a rematch from AEW's TV debut back in October as Riho defends against Nyla Rose. Riho beat Nyla in that match in October to become the first champion, and Nyla's been undefeated ever since then. There's some good stuff here. Good fire by Riho, who right away takes the fight to Nyla, and at one point Nyla sets up a table on the outside, and Riho just jumps onto the table and off it onto Nyla. 3 consecutive double stomps by Riho near the end, and Nyla just barely gets the rope break and everything. And then Nyla catches Riho with a spear, a beast bomb to win and become the new AEW Women's Champion. I thought it was a really good match. I thought both ladies brought it, told a good story, and the fans were into it the entire time. And also, I'm just happy to see Nyla win the championship here. I think you could have made this statement back in October last year, and it rings even more true now. Just how much of a bust the Women's Championship reign of Riho was. This first inaugural run, and how undercooked everything was. The fact that she was barely on TV after she won the belt, and that any feud she was in was just really underdeveloped, I feel. And I think they were in between a rock and a hard place back in October. Do you put the belt on this woman who is 98 pounds and just from the eyeball test it's hard to convince casuals or outsiders this is a competitive person, or do you put it on this transgender woman who a lot of people aren't going to sit well with seeing her win the championship? They went with the safe route with Riho winning the first time, but I think they did it right this time with Nyla winning. I think she should have won it from the beginning. I think it would have been a much more impactful attention and headline-grabbing thing had she won it on the TV debut. Obviously, Nyla winning now is going to grab some attention and some headlines anyway, but think of how much a bigger deal would have been had they done that on the TV debut. And I know there's going to be some people on the comment section, people on social media talking the transphobic mess, how they don't want to see Nyla win the championship here, but they can't change what happened, and they can't take this accomplishment away from Nyla. Backstage with the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho says he's scoured the globe looking for a bounty hunter to take on Jon Moxley next week, and it's only current Ring of Honor star and former TV champion Jeff Cobb who's been announced. They show a hype package showing his dominance, some footage from him in APW and everything. I thought it was really cool, but my first reaction was, kind of weird they'd spoil the surprise of Cobb like that, but then I immediately thought, oh, remember every other cold debut they've done in AEW and how badly it's gone over? So yeah, maybe this was the right idea. But in any case, I'm really excited to see Jeff Cobb in AEW. I mean, I've shared locker rooms with him, I've ridden with him. He's a really cool guy, great worker, and I'm really excited to see what he can do in AEW. As far as what his status at ROH is, I mean, I know he's still signed with them. As far as I know, his deal, from what I've read, is non-exclusive, so he can work these different promotions. I know he's working the Nashville-St. Louis loop with me at the end of the month, and I know he's going to be at Supercard of Honor in Tampa, so he's not going anywhere from ROH as far as I can tell, but I mean, I'm just very excited to see him here. We get a recap of the 10 lashes from last week. We see Brandy Rhodes, who is no longer an evil witch, joining commentary on stage, and she's there for our next match as MJF takes on Jungle Boy. Really entertaining stuff here in this match. Very crisp action by both guys. Great high flying by Jungle Boy, and the heel work by MJF is great too. MJF at one point makes a lewd gesture, grabbing his crotch in Brandy's direction, and Jim Ross is going, "Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!" He just can't stop yelling at MJF. Anyway, near the end, Wardlow, who left MJF on the stage during the entrance, reemerges, hands him his Dynamite Diamond ring. So MJF punches MJF, hits him with the double cross to win the matchup there. And then Wardlow beats up Jungle Boy a little more, and then the rest of the Jurassic Express show up and chase them off. So good little heat for Wardlow here as he gets ready for his cage match with Cody next week in Atlanta. We get a promo by Pac, and he's been working out. He talks to Kenny Omega about their rubber match they're going to have. It's a 30-minute Iron Man match in 2 weeks. Can't wait to see it. And then our main event, it's an eye for an eye match. That's how they're billing it, as Santana takes on Jon Moxley. What about this match exactly makes it an eye for an eye match, other than the fact that both guys have been blinded in one eye? Does the loser get their good eye stabbed out? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, it's a big brawl the entire time from the get-go. Ortiz at one point tries to spit alcohol in Moxley's good eye, try and blind him for a little bit. In the end, Moxley wins with the paradigm shift, and right afterward, the rest of the Inner Circle just beat Moxley down. Out comes Jeff Cobb in the flesh. He hits the Tour of the Islands onto Moxley, and the Inner Circle plus Cobb stand tall at the end. Things look very dire for Moxley here because he's going to be facing Cobb next week. And I will say, the announcers did a terrific job building Jeff up as well. It's, you know, again, comparing them to the cold debuts we've seen with Butcher and the Blade and the Dark Order and everything, and all these different guys who people don't really know the context to. Instead of just surprising you and just dropping him in your lap and saying, oh, here's Jeff Cobb, the Japanese deathmatch legend. Instead of that, we get, you know, him actually showing this highlight package and showing what Jeff Cobb can do, and then they explain on commentary who he is. And then, like, JR even gives him this ultimate friggin' endorsement saying he's like Dr. Death Steve Williams, which is incredible. And then Cobb shows up, and like, oh, here's this man we've been talking about. Boom. So they actually did a debut right in AEW. Who would have thunk it? Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, NXT or AEW Dynamite. It's AEW Dynamite, folks. I think this was not, if not the strongest, it was one of the strongest overall episodes of Dynamite they've had since they debuted in October. I think every match clicked. I think every promo delivered. Some great moments with the title change, and then also the debut of Jeff Cobb. Even if it wasn't a surprise in the traditional sense, it was still very impactful and very well done. That show, I was not bored or disengaged once. I was in that show the entire time. NXT had some great matches, and I loved the adventures and the wacky road trip with the Broserweights, you know, but this week it easily, in my opinion, goes to AEW. But let me know what you thought about the shows this week in the comments section, and be sure to vote what show you thought was better by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. And with that, time for my predictions for NXT TakeOver Portland this Sunday, my hometown. But to answer your questions, no, I'm not going to be in Portland this weekend. Anyway, let's begin with the street fight. Tegan Nox versus Dakota Kai. Of course, this feud began back at War Games when Dakota turned heel on Tegan, was beating the bejesus out of her with the knee brace and everything in the War Games cage. They had a match a couple of weeks ago that I thought was kind of lackluster, but fortunately it was to build to this street fight match happening in Portland, and I'm excited for it. I do think Dakota is going to win here. I feel that this is the kind of thing where, you know, the heel usually gets the big run for a while, wins a lot of matches, and we're going to see that here. How long they're going to keep this feud going, I don't know. Like I said in past installments, I believe that this is like the female equivalent of DIY, like the best friends breaking up and really violent actions by the heel. So I do think Dakota's going to win here. Finn Balor to take on Johnny Gargano, and I'm really excited for this one. I think this could be the show stealer of the night. I think these guys have styles that they work well enough, and they could deliver a real banger of a match here. That being said, I believe Johnny's going to win here. I think that the easy answer is to say Finn wins just because he's the recently turned heel and everything. But I think that Johnny's going to win this one, and then that's going to lead into another match at TakeOver in Tampa, where I believe Finn will win that one. But my prediction for this one is Johnny's going to win Portland. The Undisputed Era defend the tag titles against the Dusty Classic winners for 2020, the Broserweights, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, or as Kyle O'Reilly called them, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle. This match is going to be another just a fire emoji match. These guys are just going to just beat the piss out of each other. Lots of big old strong knees and kicks and stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think that the Undisputed Era will retain, though. They've been giving this makeshift team enough of a leash, but I don't think it's going to culminate in a tag title change, at least not this time. They may keep the Broserweights going beyond TakeOver Portland, but that one, I don't really care either way. I think they're both very entertaining together. They're really making me smile. They're a very entertaining dynamic. So, I mean, I would like to see them together, but if they break up after this, I'm not going to be brokenhearted. But yeah, I don't think they're going to win the belts. I think the Undisputed Era will retain. Rhea Ripley defends the Women's Championship against Bianca Belair in a match that, honestly, the build for which has been kind of dampened a bit because of Rhea Ripley challenging Charlotte Flair on Raw for the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania. So they've been trying to kind of cross the wires a bit with this one, with the build. So that being said, I do think Rhea's going to walk out of Portland as the champion, but not by beating Bianca clean. I think it's going to end in a no contest with Charlotte interfering and beating up both of them to get back at them for the two of them beating her up last week on NXT, which will then set up the triple threat match that I am thinking of in my head at WrestleMania. I don't do too much fantasy booking on this channel, so please indulge me, humor me a little bit as I think about that, but that's my prediction for the women's match. North American Championship match as Keith Lee will defend against Dominik Dijakovic. These guys have had a fierce rivalry the last several months, but it's turned into kind of a face versus face, mutual respect kind of deal. I think this match is going to be no different. It's going to be hard hitting, some crazy ass spots, but I do think Keith Lee is going to retain the championship here on this night. And finally, Adam Cole Bay defends the NXT title against Tommaso Ciampa, who never actually lost that championship as he had to relinquish it last year due to his neck injury, as you all know. But yeah, this one to me is kind of a coin flip. I think you could, honestly, I think you could make a sound argument for either man to win that match and be the champion going into Tampa. I have a hard time believing Cole's going to lose the belt just before WrestleMania weekend, but man, something about this just makes me think maybe Ciampa's going to win. I'm going to take a shot in the dark here, say Ciampa wins because big beards are over in Portland. But let me know what your picks are for TakeOver, and I will see you on the other side with my TakeOver Portland review sometime on Monday. But until then, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.